What's up? What's up? How are you guys doing this beautiful day? Welcome to the fifth class of how to become an expert data analyst in 7 days. Even if you're a complete number newbie, aka you don't like maths or number scares you. So this is data analysis mastery, and I am Lola Arjala. And like we've always been discussing today, we shall be keying into some of the basic facts, some of the important things that we need to know when it comes to dealing with data, and that is specifically data cleaning. One of the main headache that most data analysts have is cleaning data. When you start cleaning data, you find out that there's a whole lot of difficulties behind it. And it's a must that you do it. Because if you refuse to do it, it will at the end, wait for you. So it's like a negative sign, just as my mathematics teacher always say. It's like the negative sign. Once you do not get rid of it from the beginning and you eventually forget, it will wait for you at the end. So data cleaning is very, very important. As a data analyst, you must clean your data very well, thoroughly, so that you can actually get your proper analysis. And from experience, um, I have, okay, so before I go down there, let me just take it this way. So today we shall be talking about data cleaning. That's the discussion for today. And though there are lots of it, but we'll pick some specifics. And for me, and over my 6 years career as a data analyst, most of the problems I always have is dealing with the first two, as you can see on the screen, blanks and duplicates. Those ones occur very well. You deal with blanks, you deal with duplicates. They always come. But because I want this class to be a little bit robust, so I don't want to just pick on most of the problems that I always have. So I had to pick about 9 of the core problems of data cleaning, of data anyway, and how to eventually clean them up. Excuse me. So for every data, you have blanks. So by the time the data is being collected, you find out that in some aspects, in some cells, there are no responses in there. So should there not be any responses in there, making your analysis and you mistakenly count, it might affect you. So by the time we start analysis, I'll point you back to those blanks and you see how much they affect analysis. Another is duplicate. So most times it doesn't make sense when you have two responses by the same person and the same analysis. When you have that, so that's a kind of duplicate. So instead of you counting somebody that says, yes, I love Coke as one, you eventually count that as two due to that duplicate. Other kind of cleaning, other kind of dirt, let me use that word. Other kind of dirt that you could actually have in your data are extra spaces, numbers that are actually stored as text. So this always happens when your data is being imported from other sources, maybe from like a txt files and all of that. So when numbers are being stored as text, so once this happens, I make calculations with that. It doesn't see it as number. So most of the time it brings an error message or it causes you something you don't want. So you don't want to leave your numbers standing as text. So you want to actually convert them from text into numbers. Another is text in cases. So what I mean by text in cases is that you could have upper cases, you could have lower cases, and you could have mixed cases, which is also called proper cases. So at times you might just have the whole of your text in lower cases, and by default what you want in that column is text in upper cases or text in proper cases. So how do you do this? Also, spell checking. So spell checking, from experience, yes, I found out that that always happens on Microsoft Word and Microsoft PowerPoint. But Excel doesn't have a way for you to spell check, because Excel is basically for numbers, it's spreadsheet. So not for you to type, in letters into. You could anyway, but Excel is basically for numerical analysis. Let me use that word. So whenever you have this kind of problem, there's a way that you spell check on a spreadsheet. I'll talk to you about that too. So I'll tell you how to delete formattings. So take for instance, you have this large chunk of data and you have them formatted in some ways, but you want to regularize the whole of the formatting. I'll tell you how to do that. I'll also tell you how to highlight and spot errors and also correct these errors if you want to. And last but not least, I'll also tell you about how to parse data with text to columns. So as much as I would have wanted, I would have loved to deal with a large chunk of data while, experimenting or showing you the whole of this. But the whole chunk of data that I have are basically classified data. And what I mean by classified data are the data that actually belongs to my organization. So using it for, personal use would be a kind of, I don't know, maybe I should say breach of agreement and all of that. So I wouldn't want to deal with such data. But I've carefully crafted and, imputed some little data for us so that we can actually use that to tell the story, to actually show or highlight most of the things that I want to talk about here. So by assumption, by the time we do that, I can actually show you the spot. So I think it's better when we use little amount of data also, because it's going to be very much easier for us to actually spot out each of these errors and the changes that's happening within it, as compared to having a large chunk of data and we couldn't actually pinpoint or spot out those errors. So I think using a more softer or a less heavier data is better. Have you ever heard or do you remember the 80 to 20 rule? Yeah, it's one funny rule by Malcolm Gladwell that says that um okay, so it's kind of funny. The explanation is kind of funny that 80% 80% of what you do, brings out 20% results or otherwise. So 20% of what you do bring about 80% of your results. So know what you're actually doing. Have you heard the rule? So the rule has been explained in several forms, in several forms, and it's so funny. I've had a friend of mine said, yeah, so did you know the 80 to 20 rule? And I was like, yeah, yeah. So what's up with it? He said, so what that 80 to 20 rule is actually telling us is that 80% of the whole staff in an organization does the work, does the main work, and 20%, just enjoy themselves and don't do any work. And I was like, what are the 20%? Say, yes, those that just sign, they just sign and they just look at computers and none of that. So it's a kind of funny joke, but the 80 to 20 rule also applies here. That's what I'm trying to say. That most data scientists or most data analysts spend 80% of their time cleaning and manipulating data and only 20% of their time actually analyzing it. So analysis is not a big deal. But the big deal is understanding the data, cleaning the data, manipulating the data, doing a kind of sift, removing the shaft from the main meat of the data before actually actualizing it and analyzing it anyway. Because by the time you do that, by the time you finish making the cleanings of your data, the rest becomes very easy. So it's just writing simple codes, simple formulas, and before you know it, you're done. So without further ado, let's get into the meat of the discussion, because let's do the let's do the 20% that would actually bring about 80% results, taken from the 80-20 rule. So let's start cleaning up. So, oops, I've not opened my data, so let me do that now. So I have my Excel sheets here. So these are just the little data that I come up with so that we can actually stories. Okay, so let's start from here. So the first is treat blank cells. So from this information here, from this data here, you found out that there are several blank cells. Take a proper look, you find out that there are several blank cells. So take for instance, I have schools here. Yeah, actually I'm supposed to name each of these schools, but because of time, I had to differentiate them by numbers. So I have schools here, I have number of classrooms here, number of toilets, number of labs, and I have number of libraries here. Should you get that? So the whole of this place is empty, but I could put some sort of data in array and leave some places blank so I could do that. Okay, so take for instance, by merely looking at the screen here, it is much easier. Oh, I think this is so by merely looking at the screen here, I think it is much easier for us to spot out the blanks. There's a blank here, there's a blank here, there's a blank here, there's a blank here, there's another here, there's another here, there's another here. So it's very easy to spot out the blanks. But take for instance, you have this large chunk of data that covers everywhere. It might be very difficult for us to spot out those blanks. And that's the reason this formula is very important. So how do we spot out blanks? And how do we correct them? So the first thing you do is don't mind me, I was been distracted, so we just came to signal at me. Okay, so what was I saying? Okay, so we're taking out blanks. Good. So the first thing to do when you need to take out blanks is that you just highlight the old data. So you highlight the old data. You come over to go to special. So for you to link the go to special tab, you just come over to find and select. This is go to special. You click on it. So it takes you to this go to special dialog box. And when you get to this place, you come over to this place to click blanks. Are we together? So you come over to this place to click blanks and you say okay. So what this actually does for you is that it's this place with gray are the places with blanks. This place with white is also one of the blanks, but because this happens to be the active space, so whatever you do to this happens to the rest of the blanks. Do you get that? So whatever you do to this white place, the same active happens to the rest of the blank. So what do I want to do here? So I just want to tell everything. I think I've taken out the blanks. Okay, so let me put it back again. Go to special blanks. So what I want to tell you is that I want to say not available. I want to say not available for the data. But for this to happen to every one of these blanks at the same time, I'll press Control, then I say Enter. So it happens to everything at a time. So you find out that the whole of the places that it showed to me that are not available, most of those places there are no data in there. So this place is blank, this place is blank, this place is blank, this place is blank, and all of that. So it's so easy for you to spot out blank. So by the time I do that, I can actually have a total overview that yes, in each of the places where there are blanks, what I've used to cover those blanks is not available. So whosoever is checking would know that in this school 1, I have 69 number of classrooms, I have 71 number of toilets, I have 68 number of labs, I have one, library. So in this second school, I have 50 classes, I do not have toilets. So the data for the number of toilets is not available. And this is 4. So I can actually do that. So that is that regarding blanks. So let's move to the other one, duplicates. How does duplicate works? So duplicates works by we saying by we getting data that appears more than twice. So I could actually do a total view of, say, I like the data and I want to check through, I want to see the duplicates. So I come over to conditional formatting, I come up to highlight cells rules, then I scroll down to the bottom to see duplicate values. So I click on that. So this tells me that format cell with somehow format cells that contain duplicates here, that contains duplicates with, so I state the kind of format that I want to happen to it, but for this I want light red field with dark red text. So I say okay. And you know what's happening here? What this is telling me is this points out any data that appears twice. That's exactly what it points at. So any data that appears twice, this points it out. So let's take, for instance, I have 69 here. I also have 69 here. So because they appeared twice, they are duplicates. That's the reason it's bringing it forth. I have 91 here. I also have 91 here. Because they appeared twice, that's the reason it's bringing it. Also for 68 here and 68 here. But if you take note very well, in responses, by the time you gather your data, maybe from Google Forms or using jaldeeque collect, by the time you download your main data, you find that your responses are always in a row. Your responses are always in a row, while your questions are on the columns. So what this means is that if this were to be a data collected per school or per person, it comes like this. So what I mean is that for school 1, this information are for school 1. So even if it seems longer than this, they are all for school 1. But if I check out the columns, these are the questions for each schools. So 69 is the number of classrooms in school 1, 50 is the number of classrooms in school 2, etc. So it's going to be very wrong for me if I make any changes on the column, because that will amount to me changing data. So when it comes to duplicate, it doesn't make sense for me to actually change any data on the column, because what duplicates actually mean in this context is that responses that are duplicated. So take for instance, I have school 1 with all of this, then I have another school 1 with all of this. So responses that are duplicated. And if we take a very good look at this, we'll find out that school 8 and let me use the shift. Let me use. So we found out that school 8 and school 11 are duplicates. They are actually duplicates. So it's very likely that I have this because they are actually same. So by having the same figures, I could actually regard them as duplicates. But on the other hand, I could not even regard them as duplicates, being that this is school 8 and this is school 11. They are totally different. But take for instance, this is school 8 and this is also school 8, and I have the same figures for them, then that is totally and then that is totally what? That's totally a duplicate. So take for instance, I have name of school here, Adam School, and I have Sunny Schools. I have Man's School. I have Vedic School. I have Meaning. Viola School. So I'm just doing this now. And I have Crocs School. I have Jinx School. The words are just coming. So okay, so 8 is Crooks. Crooks School with 89, 76. So I think this one is also Crooks School. School. Let me call this have and I think this should be 69. Okay. So by me looking at this, so now that the school has names, I think it's a lot better. So take for instance this number 5, this daily school. It has number of classrooms as 69, 88, and 96, and it is same as this. So everything here is the same thing as everything here. So this is a complete duplicate because the names of the schools are the same, the data are also the same. So this for sure is a duplicate. Also for this cross school, so I have cross school 78, 53, and 86. The same thing for this 78, 53, and 86. So these are also complete um, duplicates because they consist of the same data, the same name, and everything. So how do I get rid of this? Should I have duplicates like that? And most times duplicates happens excuse me, and most time duplicates happens when you submit an information twice. So sometimes due to network issue, you might have entered your data, then you click submit, that has gone, that has been uploaded to the server, but maybe you thought that that data hasn't gone, or you thought that due to network issue the stuff just keeps rolling and you do not get it, so and you tend to enter that data again, then submit. So you might actually have two of those data. But how do you clean up the data? So it's just very easy. All you need to do is highlight everything. So by the time you highlight, you come over to data, then you say remove duplicates. So you find out that I have 12 responses here. So by the time I remove duplicates, it will remain 10. So I'll just come over to this place. Make sure that you say to the system that you have headers. So my data has header. Then the thing asks you that which columns do you want to actually take duplicates out of? And for me, I'm taking duplicates out of every column. So duplicates in this in the areas of name of schools, number of classes, number of toilets, and number of labs. So I say okay. So this tells me that I have two duplicate values found, and those duplicate values have been removed. So I have 10 unique values remaining. So you found out that there are no duplicates here. So before, I have two day schools and two cross schools, but they are totally out of it now. Do you get that? But I still have individual cells as duplicates, which is normal. So the next is how to spot errors. So look at this now. So this is better off by we looking at it this way. So take for instance, we have large chunk of data and you want to take out errors out of it. So how do you take out all of these errors? How do you spot out your errors from this? So it's just very easy. So all you need to do, you can actually use two ways. The first is using go to special. So you just highlight everything, then come back to home, do this, go to special, then you come to formulas, you uncheck all of these, because the only thing you need to talk about, you want to actually highlight, is the errors. So you click errors. So it has highlighted all the errors for me, but it left one of these active. So the one that I left active, I can say not available. I can say not available. Then I put my hand on control, then I hit enter. So it's going to do the same for everything. So all I know is that wherever I have not available, that means there's an error in there. So that's one way. Let me control Z. So that's one way. I could also do it another way using conditional formatting. So I just highlight everything. Come back to conditional formatting. So I move down to new rule. So I come over to this place to click format cell, format only cells that contain, I choose that contains what? That contains error. You get that? So I can now set the kind of formattings that I want for myself. So what kind of formatting do I want? I may say, okay, fill it with red. So that by red, I know that it contains error. So I say, okay. So it fills all the errors with red. So most of the time, I always prefer using this because this gives me a straight look at all the errors at the time, no matter how large the chunk of data is. So instead of me writing not available in there, so I just it automatically stays as red, and it's with red, it's kind of obvious for me to actually see. So that regarding that. But how do we remove? So the next is we removing extra spaces. So if you take a proper look at this text, you find out that there are some spaces in between. Like in here, there's a space before it and space after it. The same thing with this. The same thing. This space is kind of irregular. The same thing with this and also this. But what do we do to actually sort these out? Because at times you might have large chunk of data and you need to make sure all of them are properly spaced. So how do you trim this space? Just as the English I just made use of now. So you just come over to this place, you say equal to, then you trim, TRIM. So that's the formula. You open brackets, so it tells you which text do you want to trim. you reference the text you want to trim, you close bracket, then you hit enter. So it will automatically, correct that for you. So for me to replicate the same formulas for the rest of this, so I just come over to this place, wait until this becomes plus, then I drag down. Boom. So you see that the spaces here, have been corrected, and that is that as regards that. So moving forward, remove all formatting. I hope you guys are getting this. Just which there's a kind of platform where you guys can, actually raise up your hands and I can also see you. There's a recorded class, but you just raise up your hand. Sorry, there's a mistake somewhere. Can you help me clarify this? Then that clarification will be done. But irrespective, yeah, there's a way we can actually contact each other after the whole of this. Then you ask your questions, then we can actually talk about it. So if you take a look at each of these data, you find out that there's a format in it. So it has italics and it has been underlined. Let me make it worse. So this one is also bold. But how do we remove this formatting? So if it happens to be for very little amount of data like this, yes, it's quite easy. I can actually click and start doing them one after the other. You understand? I can actually click and start doing them one after the other. But if the data happens to be a large chunk of data, there is no way you can actually do each of that, else you waste that precious time that you have. So the best thing for you to do is highlight the whole of your data. Come over to home, then clear. Click on this little inverted triangle. Then be quite sure of what you choose here. So do you want to clear all? So if you clear all, it takes away every of the data. You want to clear format. So what we actually want to do is clear the format. So you do that and the whole of the format gets out. So by the time you see this, you see that the formattings are no longer there. So it's so easy. So you just take out the formatting with that way. But just as I said, be careful not to clear the whole of your data. But if you do clear it anyway, you have Control Z as a backup. You can actually do that. So let's spell check. So most people ask me these questions that, hey, but in Microsoft Word, I can actually, correct my spellings, but why is it that difficult for me to do here in Excel? And I'll tell you what, it's not difficult to do. So the fact that I do not have a spell check and in Microsoft Excel doesn't mean that so the fact that you do not have a spell check doesn't mean the fact that Microsoft Excel is not for you to actually type text and words doesn't mean that you can do a spell check. So there are two ways of doing that. So the first way is you coming over here to review, then you click on spelling. So it takes you to this place. So look at the first statement. The first statement is correct. I said life is beautiful. But the second statement said life is beautiful. So it did a kind of spell check and bring a suggestion for me. And the suggestion is life is bountiful, which is correct. So I can actually change that. It automatically changes the beautiful to bountiful. This is breathful. So it's also, highlight the mistake, then brought a kind of suggestion for me as fretful. So I can actually change it to fretful. So that is done also. So I'm good. So with that, you can actually spell check whatever you want. So if you have large chunk of data and they are qualitative data anyway, because you do this with qualitative data. So they are qualitative data and you want to ensure that every of the words are correctly spelled. So all you need to do is head over to review, then go to spelling, or basically you just push the F7 button. So by pushing the F7 button, it shows you the dialog. So let me Control Z. Okay. So you can actually press the F7 button and it takes you to the same page. So you can actually see each of these data then make your corrections as you want. Then we move forward. So I think we're good with that too. So the next is changing text cases. So how do we change text cases? So these are names, and these names are not in the, yeah, maybe they are not in the correct form. So names starting with, lowercase and the surname starting with lowercase. So this might not be proper. So for you to actually do this in the proper way, all you need to do is say equal to, then you say proper. So proper means you want to make it a proper noun. So you open the bracket, you choose your text, close your bracket, then you enter. So it makes it a proper noun. Write the name the way it should be written. George Dredd. George with capital letter J and the surname with capital letter D. So you can actually come over to this place. Wait for this to become plus. Drag it down. So for uppercase, you want everything to be in caps. Just say equal to. Then use upper case. You open your bracket. Choose your text. Close. Enter. So it breaks everything in uppercase. Wait, come over to this place. Let this become minus. Drag it down. We're good. The same thing for the third. You say equal to. Then you say lowercase. Open your bracket. Choose your text. Close. Enter. So everything in lowercase. So you can come over to this place. Wait until this becomes plus. You drag down. So that is that as regards that. So easy, I tell you. So the next is, how do we convert values to number formats? So take for instance, you have this. So the best way for me to explain this is for us to check out these values one after the other. So look at this. This is January. By the time I click on January, we'll come over back to, we'll head over back to home. So by the time I hit on January, it shows me general, like the string belongs to the general family. And when I hit on this, though this is a number, it tells me it's a number, so we're good. This is another number, but it tells me that it is a text, which means something is wrong. And by the display of green here too, and with this little, and with this little prompt, it shows me that there is an error here. And the error is, it said the number in this cell is formatted as text or preceded by an apostrophe. So this number is formatted as text. Though it might seem to be a number, but it's actually a text. The same thing here. This is also a text. Yeah, this is a correct number. And that's the reason, it has the proper alignment. This also is a text. This also is a text. And this also belongs to the general family. But what we want them to be is a number. We want them to be a number because by the time we start, making different analytical statements with this, we're going to get thousands of things wrong. Because this, though it's a number, but it is not being seen as a number. So we might have issue with it. So the best way to actually turn the whole of these mixed text and numbers into proper numbers is just get an empty space on your Excel sheet, just anywhere, just go over there and type in 1. So by the time you finish typing in 1, all you need to do is to just come over to this place. You copy this one, Control C, then come over to the whole of your, the whole of your numbers and text. You highlight the whole of them. After highlighting them, you come over to paste special. Then you say multiply. You say okay. So it multiplies everything by 1 and changes them to what? Number. So you find that this belongs to the general family. And once it belongs to the general family, you can actually do any of your numerical analysis with it. So that's the first way. You could actually use another way to do that too. And the other way that you can actually use is conditional formatting, I guess. Is it conditional formatting? Okay. Ctrl Z. Okay, so the other way you could actually use, sorry, not conditional formatting. The other way you can actually use is making the multiplication directly. So I could just say 1 times this. It's enter. So I come over to this place and drag down everything. So it changes everything to numbers for me. So that is that as regards that. So sometimes you have text like this and you want to make the whole of this text, you want to put them into each columns. So instead of you having, each names here, you want to put each of these names into columns. So all you need to do is highlight this name, then you come over to, is it data? Okay, sorry, you come over to data, yeah. So you come over to data, so you say text to columns. So when you say text to column, it brings out this little wizard and it shows the file type that best describes your data. So you choose delimited, and what fixed width means is that the whole of the data are of fixed width, and if you check it out, you find out that they are not of fixed width because this one is shorter, this one is longer, this one is a little bit shorter, this one is also shorter, this one is, so all of that. So you come over, you head over to delimited and click that. So you say next. So by the time you say next, you say what is the delimiter? So if you check this out very well, you find out that the delimiter is a space. So you uncheck the tab, so put it to space, then you say next. So by saying next, it tells you where do you want this to be. So you choose the destination. So for me, I'm just going to click on this, then I'll choose this part. So I'll say enter. So I'll say finish. So it brings everything in here and it has, broken them down for me. It's as easy as that. And let me do it in another way. So we could have another by saying, I can say Lola. So the delimiter here is comma. Say Sadiq, then underscore. I don't know if underscore works, but okay. So then I come over to this place, I highlight everything, choose text to this. So I still choose delimiter. So I say next. So it asks me what are the delimiter. So I think I have other delimiter, like I have delimiters like space, there's space in there. I have comma, there's comma in there. So if I were to have semicolon or a tab and all of that, I'll do that. So I think other, I could also choose other. So I click on this place, then I say I have underscore too. I say next. So it asks me where do I want it. So I come over to this place, choose where I wanted it to be. Hit on enter, then I say finish. So you found out that it has taken out everything. So that is basically how to clean up your data. So the first thing you do whenever you need to clean up your data, whenever you just downloaded your responses, is that you take a long look at everything. So by taking a long look at it, you have a feeling of some kind of errors, then you start cleaning it one after the other. So by the time you do that 80% job, doing your analysis is going to be lots easier. So it saves you of many stress. So just as the duplicate thing that we did the other time. So take for instance, we have responses that are about 200 and you have 50 duplicates. If you do not clean that data, you start analyzing 200 set of data instead of 150. But by the time you've cleaned it, you've saved yourself a whole lot of stress of adding the additional 50 to it by actually, removing the duplicates and all of that. So that is that as regards that. So by the time you go into your, first interview as a data analyst, you have lots and lots of things to say, and you've also practiced. So if you ask that, how do you go about this? You can actually tell them. And as a matter of fact, you could actually tell them in an interview that, yeah, and basically most of the data analysis job, whenever it comes to analysis, is that 80% of the job is about data cleaning. So whosoever you're saying that to knows that this candidate knows exactly what he's talking about. So for you to tell them that yes, you know that the bulk of the job, more than 80, approximately 80% of the job is cleaning of that data. So by the time you clean data, analyzing, getting responses, and writing your report and telling stories from that analysis is going to be a lot easier. So by telling someone on the interview, say the person actually knows that yes, this person knows is honest. So that is that as regards that. So we continue the class in a couple of minutes. So thank you very much for joining me on this class. So I'll see you when we continue. Thank you.